For these, we have parallel and perpendicular lines. So 49 says, write the slope of a line parallel to y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3. So for parallel, that means lines have the same slope. So all we have to do to figure out what the slope is to a line parallel to this one is figure out what the slope is. So we learned that the slope is right before the x. So something parallel to negative 1/2 x, the slope would just have to be the same. So our slope would be negative 1/2. Now perpendicular, lines have to be opposite reciprocals. So what this means is if this one, so the slope of this line is negative 4/3. The slope of the new line, if this one's negative, this one has to be a positive. And since this is 4/3, we have to flip it to get the reciprocal, so it'd be 3/4. So our slope here would be positive 3/4. Next it says write the equation of a line parallel to y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2, and it goes to the point 6, 2. So we know our slope, if it's parallel, has to be the same. So our slope here is negative 1/3. And then our point is 6, 2. So we can use point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we can just plug in everything we know and then get it into slope-intercept form. So I'd have y minus 2. Our slope is negative 1/3, so negative 1/3 x minus 6. So I just plugged in x and y and plugged in my slope. Now I just have to simplify this. So I distribute the negative 1/3. So y minus 2 equals negative 1/3 x. Negative 1/3 times negative 6 is positive 2. So then I add 2 to both sides, and my final equation here is y equals negative 1/3 x plus 4. So this line right here is parallel to this one because it has the same slope. And then when you plug in the 0.62, you get an intercept of 4. Now we're basically going to do the same steps for perpendicular, except our slope has to be different. So the slope of this one is negative 1/4, so this one has to be positive. And 1/4, the reciprocal is 4/1. So our slope will just be 4 on this one. And we have the point 0, 5. So again, we can use point slope. Which is y minus 5 equals 4 times x minus 0. When I distribute, I get y minus 5 equals 4x. 4 times 0 is just 0. So when I add my 5 to both sides, our final equation is y equals 4x plus 5. You could have also gotten this intercept right away because 0, 5, if the x is 0, that means that has to be the y-intercept. So now we can go on to slopes parallel and perpendicular to the axis. So if we look at 53, it says what kind of slope is parallel to the y-axis. So if we look at what an axis looks like, it'd be like this. So this one up here is our y, this one's our x. Now if we want something parallel to the y-axis, it has to be like this. So these two lines are parallel. So this red y-axis and the blue one is the line I just drew. Those two are parallel because they never touch. So the slope of a vertical line was undefined. And we learned that earlier in the review. Now this next one says what kind of slope is perpendicular to the y-axis. So perpendicular would be this way. So perpendicular, they have to make a right angle. Perpendicular, this green line has a slope of 0. So horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Now we have two more. It wants to know the slope parallel to the x-axis. So again, this is our x-axis right here. Parallel to the x-axis would look like this. So this blue one and this red one never touch, which means they're parallel. The slope of a horizontal line is 0. If it wants one perpendicular to the x-axis, it would look like this because that makes a right angle. And the slope of a vertical line is undefined. So that's parallel and perpendicular to our axis.